Hi everyone, it's Kathie. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I'm featuring the October 2022 Paper Pumpkin Kit, and these are alternative cards that I'll be sharing with everyone, and we're going to get started. So the first card, we're starting off with some alcohol markers, and we're going to be using these two die-cut pieces that came in the kit. I do want some kind of flower for this first card. I'm going to use this smaller floral piece, if you will, and we're going to color the backside in the light real red. I'm just kind of doing this on the fly, so I'm not sure if it's going to turn out at all. Just measuring to make sure that there's full coverage when I put the larger flower type piece over top this little one. And looks like I've achieved that. Now there is a section that is not fully covered, and you'll see what I mean shortly. With the bigger piece, I'm just going to color it in with the cherry cobbler, which is, I think, the lighter color, just to have a bit of contrast. And those little straight lines coming off of the centerpiece, I actually didn't mind it white, but I ended up coloring those. And then I also colored the outside of the flower. And after coloring it, it kind of looked like a cookie. So just make sure you've got full coverage. And then we'll just stick the bigger flower piece, if you will, over top of the little one. So I'm just going to pull out my glue and we'll stick the two together, and then we'll just cut that out. All right, so I'm cutting out this piece, and I'm thinking if I should cover up the back where it's kind of see-through. So I do end up sticking it onto a piece of white cardstock, but afterwards, I don't think I really needed it because I did stick it onto a card base that was white after all. So I'm just showing you that I did stick it down on white cardstock, and now I'm just going to cut it out, leaving a small white little border, and there's some little white bits, so I'm just going to color those in with the marker. And then the center, we're just going to dot it with some black. And so this flower is actually done. Now with this die cut piece, I needed some candle flames, and these little small sections was perfect. So I'm coloring them in with Daffodil Delight. I'm using the light and the dark. And I'm just going to snip those out and then clean the tips. And we'll just leave that for now. And we're just going to jump into the second flower that I wanted to show you that is actually a little quicker to make. We're going to use the bigger flower piece, or actually it kind of looks like a snowflake now. And we'll just cut it out. So basically I just stuck down the center. I will have to glue down the edges. We're just going to trim around it just like the first one. I did leave some sections until I glue them down, and that way it doesn't come apart too easily. And now I'm just going to finish trimming the sections back. And there are some red areas left because of the different shapes around the snowflake or flower. And you can just leave it as is, but I was kind of extra picky while I was creating this on the fly. I did cut around each one of them so that it wouldn't show the red for the most part. But now that I've watched the video back, I don't think it really mattered. Okay, so I actually like the second one better. And of course, I can't leave well alone. So with the light real red, I'm just going to color in the center, but I'm going to leave a white border. So I'm not going to color it in entirely, just so it looks a little bit more, I guess, organic. And then with a black Stampin' Write marker, we're going to dot the center. All right, so a little bit easier. I do end up using both of these flowers. All right, on this leftover piece, we're going to color in the center with the light real red. And I thought I'd try to mask this flower piece and use the cherry cobbler over top. But I did use the brush end, and I think it kind of ran into the lines. So it wasn't too perfect. So I decided to do it one more time, and this time I used the bullet end. It's a little better, but I thought I'd try to see if there was much of a contrast. So not much there. Anyway, I'm going to dot the center again, and I did color in 3 of them. I only needed 2. And then we're just going to snip these out. I did leave the little white sections around each of the pieces, and then I'm just going to color them in as well. All right, so this large banner, it measures about 3 3/8 of an inch, and we want this to be one taller than the other. We're going to trim it back 1 3/4 inch. So these are going to be our candles, and just put the 2 together, and we're going to round the bottom, and then we're going to put the top together, and we're going to round the top just ever so slightly just to take away that peak. I was going to use this square border piece, but I changed my mind. So here's the flames that we made earlier, and I cut that in half, and now I'm just going to stick it on the top of the candles. That little nubby thing at the bottom was just perfect for the candles. So besides the red, I needed one more color to go with this arrangement. So I decided to color in 2 of those little small sections. So it doesn't have to be a giant leaf, just a little bit of color will do. But I thought I'd just settle with the 2 just to give it just that extra little pop of color. And on each of the candles, whatever I had left on the dauber in blue, I'm just using that just to shade around it. And then I have 2 panels here, one in the basic white and real red. But now we're just going to put the candles together. And I'm just going to place it on the card panel so that I can stamp out the Mary first. And then I noticed that the M did not quite stamp properly. So I just grabbed my fine tip Sharpie and carefully fixed that. And note that I've practiced stamping it, primed this Christmas stamp, and after I stamped it, I didn't like how it turned out. Maybe I rocked it a little too much. Yeah, I just stamped it on another piece of cardstock, and I'm just gonna cut it right to the edge, and I'm gonna put some dimensionals on that. All right, moving on to the next step. Here's that second flower that was made and the 2 little ones. So I'm just deciding on the arrangement. Now we're going to stick some glue dots onto the larger flower first. And then we'll stick down the smaller 2 flowers. But before I do the second one, I'm just going to stick it onto that first flower. So we're going to add just a few more dimensionals on this piece so it's nice and level. And there's that first flower at the back of the candle, which I think worked out just fine. And then we're going to find a place for that final little flower. And then here are the 2 tiny little leaves. And without it, I think it was just a little too much, so we needed a little something else. And I think this little splash of color was just perfect. All right, so now we're just going to mount the panel onto a real red panel and then onto a top folding card base. So that's the card. A little bit fussy, I would have to say, but I like how it turned out. All right, we're going to jump into some stills. And I thought I'd get a little bit fancy. I've been using Canva for a while, and I keep forgetting that I have it. And I thought I'd throw in a little bit of sparkle there. All right, jumping into the second card. This one is super duper quick and easy. I'm sure someone else has already come up with this, but I just couldn't help it. I really like the slimline cards, so this is a mini size. And I did cut out a Bermuda Bay panel and then a white panel over top. So we're just going to get the card base and panels ready first. And then we'll stick the elements onto the front. Off screen, I added the dimensionals so that you don't have to watch me do it. All right, before I stick down the elements, I have the Santa die cut piece, and I'm just going to cut out the hat. And I really like this piece over the stamped one. And now we're just going to stick down the Merry and the Christmas sentiment and the Santa hat any which way you like, but I decided to kind of stick it in between the top of the M. So super quick. I really like how this card turned out, and the die cut sentiments was just screaming mini slimline card. On to the third card. All right, so this card is pretty easy. The square piece is 1.5 inches square, and it is the real red. I used the real red for my stash instead of cutting apart one of the red card bases that came in the kit. And then I have 2 of the snowflakes, which is small and medium size. We're going to raise that red panel with dimensionals. And to get the proper placement for the sentiment, I'm just going to add the larger snowflake on the bottom right corner and then stamp the sentiment first before sticking everything down. That's it for this card. And we'll just stick it onto a top folding card base. And I decided to add some of the gems that came in the kit. All right, on to card number 4. This one is a little bit fussy, but I really like how it turned out. It's super cute and definitely way out of the box. We're going to be using the Flirty Flamingo Stampin' Write marker. The little circle piece is in Flirty Flamingo, and that was created using the negative from the joy word. I just traced out the O and hand cut it out. The blue panel is from the kit. I just cut it down to 4.25 inches, and I removed 1/8 of an inch twice. I'm going to use the big piece and then a little 1/8 inch on the outside. I decided that I have a little red 1/8 inch sliver, so I'm going to put that right in between. And I noticed that I had a little dirty mark, so I used my handy dandy mono eraser, and that did the trick. And the next step, we're going to be snipping out a little square from this die cut piece. I did include that little small section under the square, but once I'm finished fussing, I will snip that off and we'll use it for later. Now with the square piece, I'm just cleaning up the edges, and then I'm going to taper it in going towards the top. Okay, and then we're going to need 2 of these little small sections. I don't know what you call them, small bits. So we're going to clean off the one end. I don't cut off the other ends because I'm going to use it to glue it down. So we have another one here. Just cleaning up the edges. You can leave the ears like that, or you can remove the side little pointy sections and make it just a little bit more narrower. Because I do find it to be a little bit fatter for ears. And initially, I want it to be a bunny, but I decided not to cut out bunny ears by hand and just use what was in the kit. So you can do either way, whatever is easier. Either you trim it down or leave it, but I trim mine down just a little bit. It kind of looks like a little piglet, but either way, I think it turned out super cute. And now we're going to work on the face. We're going to draw the nose, starting with the nose. And when you draw the nose, don't do it in the middle of that square. Bring it down a little lower. And then the eyes just a little bit wider. And then it looks super cute. Okay, so this piece came in the kit. It's the wider one, and we're going to draw a little oval about a good 1/2 inch. So it's just a little bit past that 1/2 inch line. But when I cut it out, I do cut it out a little bit longer just in case I want it to be a little bigger. And then the top part, I just rounded it into an egg shape. And we need 4 more of these little small sections. So yes, this card is a little bit fussy, but I absolutely love how it turned out. It's just super cute. All right, so we're going to put this guy's head on top of his body. And now I'm going to stick the arms together, one facing up and one down. And then the feet, I just butt them together and then just grab the body and put it over top. And there you go. Isn't he cute? Now, after I stuck it all down, I thought, oh, I forgot to shade around him beforehand. Anyway, I carefully used my small sponge dauber, which has whatever brown that was on there. So I didn't ink it up or anything. And I just gently shaded in each of the body parts. All right, so one more of those small little sections on the back side. I did color it in with the Flirty Flamingo and added some glue and stuck it on the bottom of this round piece, which is going to be the balloon. I mean, you could omit that part, but it was just an added detail that I thought was kind of neat. And then the gold twine that I love to use all the time, just going to tape it down. And then the balloon, I decided to add just a little white highlight. All right, and we'll stick that down with some dimensionals. I couldn't decide if I wanted this balloon on the left, on the right, so I settled with the left and just filled this little guy with a whole bunch of dimensionals and then just stuck it down. All right, so because this is kind of birthday-ish, I grabbed the Pansy Patch, I think it was, stamp set, and stamped out the happy birthday and added a few gems. And that's it. Super cute, right? All right, so a couple of stills and all of the cards that was made today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye for now.